Welcome to Earth's Mightiest Weirdos. Back from his illustrious vacation is Marc Valentine. How are you doing tonight, Marc?
I am great. Gentlemen, I missed you so much.
You finally watched What If. You were way behind on that for a little while.
I was. All caught up.
Welcome back. In the bottom right-hand corner, the famous one and only Piano Rob.
What's up, guys? Good to be here. Great episode. Can't wait to talk about it.
It is great to have you back. And joining us for his first time on the podcast is Robert, who is our expert in many, many things, especially art. On this, the day we celebrate the 23rd of August, the day in 2 years from now that Wanda and Vision will host Mr. and Mrs. Hart. Robert, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks for having me on.
We are happy to have you. Well, let's get right into it. There is a whole lot to talk about. First and foremost, before we get into it, there could be a Spider-Man trailer drop while we are on our podcast. We will cross that bridge when we come to it. Sony is presenting at CinemaCon in California in the next 30 minutes. If that trailer drops while we are on here, we will figure that out. Be nice on the internet. There is a leaked version of the trailer. Don't tag people in it. That happened to me. That was not cool. So we will see how it goes. Marc already asks, what if the trailer drops will we watch it live? We really don't know. Other than me freaking out, we will cross that bridge when we come to it. So let's get right into it. First and foremost, I'm the only one here that has, so this will be a very quick topic, but I have seen Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. The review embargo lifted today. I'm obviously not going to spoil anything. What I will say is that the movie is a whole lot of fun. Even though they keep showing a lot of stuff in the trailers, there are still plenty of surprises, and it is unlike anything in the MCU that you've seen. I know you've heard that before, but it is very, very different. The action choreography is incredible. The fight scenes are awesome. And that is all I will say, other than Awkwafina is amazing.
Can I just ask one question?
You can.
And if it's too spoilery, just be like, I can't answer it. Does the post-credits connect to something else? Just say no, I can't talk about it then.
Does it connect to something else? Not directly.
Okay.
That's the answer I'll give.
Because Black Widow was basically just... I mean, it did, but it also didn't. So,
well, I mean,
I was underwhelmed. Put it this way: I was just underwhelmed by the Black Widow post-credit scene.
I completely disagree. I'm stoked to have Yelena Belova show up in the Hawkeye series. It gives me far more anticipation for the Hawkeye series. But did somebody say Black Widow?
Nice.
Robert painted this one as well. I love the fact, and now this, Robert, this is a GIF, isn't it? Where the actual
that's
crossing forth, right? Yeah,
that light on the right of the visor, that shouldn't be there. That's a part of animation. I don't know how to end it up there, but yeah, basically it just goes across the whole visor.
Yeah, it's awesome. So, Robert, give everybody just a little bit of who you are, what you are, why you're here.
Well, I got invited on here. I've known Bryan now, 2 years?
Yeah,
from Discord through another podcast, and I'm just a fan like y'all, so I like drawing. That's pretty much it.
Absolute artist. I am going to strategically drop art. So we just talked about Shang-Chi. There is another piece of art that Robert has done about Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. So some really cool stuff there, but get excited. Go see Shang-Chi if you are comfortable and can do so safely on September 2nd, technically Thursday night. Let's get into it real quick. There was another trailer that did drop last weekend, and that was the Eternals trailer. There was some really cool stuff in there. One of the best shots we got in the trailer. Go ahead, Marc.
Oh, no, go ahead. I'm just fist pumping, man.
One of the best shots we got in the trailer was of this Celestial. Now, we've seen this guy before, and this is when the Collector, who we're going to talk a lot about tonight, is telling about what specifically the Power Stone and the Infinity Stones are. This Celestial invaded some sort of planet and turns those people to ash. We don't know for sure that this is the same Celestial, but there is some pretty good indications that the case. We do see, I believe Angelina Jolie's character is Thena, if I remember correctly, looking like Brad Pitt out of Troy with her shield and her weapon, and just another shot we'd already seen before of just all of the Eternals. And then not pictured here is Dane Whitman, who is Jon Snow from Game of Thrones. This movie looks awesome. They answered the question in the trailer, which I'm happy about, of where were they throughout this time in the MCU. But Rob, what did you think?
Is that Kit Harington?
That is Kit Harington.
Is Jon Snow, yeah.
It's Jon Snow, yes. He plays Dane Whitman, who is some sort of superhero. I can't remember who the Black Knight.
Black Knight.
Yeah, Black Knight.
Yeah. But Rob, what did you think of the Eternals trailer?
I like the trailer. I still don't overly know about the Eternals. I like that they answered a couple questions. We got a little more backstory, but nothing in any way that I think spoils anything about the movie. So I'm trying to keep myself in the dark about it. Same thing. This and Shang-Chi, I know the least about, and I want to go into it with an open mind, no expectations. So I'm excited for it.
I'm really happy to piggyback off what you just said, that Marvel clapped back at the haters. They injected it right into the trailer. It's like, for people who in the last trailer were like, where were these jokers during the whole Infinity Saga? Love the fact that Feige and Marvel Studios was like, all right, listen, stop telling us how to do our job. Boom. There you go. There's your line. They were not meant to interfere. They had a mandate that they were not supposed to interfere with any Earth-related nonsense or anything other than, here's our mandate. So good on, Marvel for just kind of like taking people out at the knees.
They're pretty experienced at doing that too. I'm excited to have seen the Deviants now and see actually how they can attack the Deviants. I thought that was really cool. But Robert, what did you think of the Eternals trailer?
Oh, I loved it, man. I'm really excited for this one. I know a lot of people weren't too excited about it to begin with because it's not like a popular property for Marvel. And truth be told, the comics sucked. I didn't like any of them. I didn't read the newest one, but yeah, this is pretty cool, man.
I'm excited to see Chloe Zhao's take on it. Chloe Zhao is the reigning Best Director Academy Award winner for Nomadland, still streaming on Hulu if you wanted to check it out. I saw she was on the red carpet of the Shang-Chi premiere with Destin Daniel Cretton as well. They're getting a lot of really brilliant filmmakers to make these films, and maybe they're one and done. Maybe Chloe Zhao's never going to come back to the MCU, but she's going to introduce a crazy amount of characters into this new world, and I'm excited about it. That movie's going to be a lot of fun. It is in theaters at this point, in theaters only, on November 5th.
I dig it.
Well, let's get into it right now. Mark, you have not had a chance to tell us your thoughts on What If in general. So I'd love to hear your overall thoughts on the first two episodes, including the Captain Carter episode last week, and just your overall thoughts on this past week's episode.
Yeah, so I mean, being at Disney for a few days, I just got really behind. The Wi-Fi can be like really spotty at certain resorts. So I wanted to enjoy it. I checked this out in a quiet corner of Orlando International Airport. I went like back to back. Like, I dig it. I will tell you up front, I did not know if I was going to like the animation style. Like, straight away, I told many of you that. I didn't know if the animation was going to work for me. But you fall into it really quickly. I didn't get a chance to talk about Captain Carter. I really liked the take. I liked the fact that Steve Rogers continued to be a part of the narrative of that episode. It was fun. It's just, that's what this series is supposed to be. It's supposed to be a lot of fun. The second episode, though, for as much as I liked the first, guys, I really loved this episode for just a variety of reasons. Am I the only one that just got chills when you heard Chadwick Boseman's voice again? Like, I kind of missed it. I missed it up a little bit. And, like, just hearing his voice again really just like right away hit me in the feels. And this whole episode, the thing I think I liked about it most is they had a chance to show, I think through a fictional character, how much better the universe would be with, I'm just going to say, with Chadwick at the helm as Star-Lord. And for me, like I really loved it. This was such a beautiful, in some ways, eulogy to Chadwick as an artist, as a human being, so that I kind of looked at this and I was like, look, you know, I loved that we were kind of living vicariously through this narrative to show in some ways how he made our universe better. I don't know. I'm sorry if I'm getting a little too heavy right out the gate. My apologies, but
we'll talk about it at the end as well, because I mean even the show addressed it. I completely agree, but we'll talk more on, is the universe actually better off with T'Challa as Star-Lord, because there's some indications that maybe not. Robert, the Captain Carter episode was still fairly quote unquote formulaic as it went. It was a fairly similar storyline to what happened in Captain America: The First Avenger. Obviously some very large differences as well. This thing turned the entire show and the entire MCU completely on its head. And Robert, while you talk about what you thought of the cosmic nature of this episode, I'm going to show some people some of your cosmic nature art.
Okay. I mean, yeah, it totally flipped it. Like, it's 6 years before Guardians. First off, it's happening during the same time when Tony Stark becomes Iron Man. So that's pretty cool. So basically,
it was 2008.
It's 20 years. It's 88.
Oh, you're right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, 2008. So it's happening during that same time. And like, I don't know about you guys, but is every episode a different timeline, or is some of the stuff going to be connected? Because it seems like that's where it's going with Killmonger, because you figure if T'Challa goes missing, that'll bring all the war dogs together and everybody like kind of make amends, like Njobu and T'Chaka. So maybe that's why you see Killmonger with like super strength throwing the Stark missile,
And so, without T'Challa around, did T'Challa want to replace him, for lack of a better term?
Somebody's got to take up the mantle because he's getting older.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. So, and we'll talk a lot more about that in Dairy Queen when we get into the interconnectivity of it all. Rob,
I was just going to say, I've got a hankering for a blizzard.
Yeah. Rob, like last week. Rob, what did you think of this week?
Last week I loved. This week multiplied it by 10. It just added. It took this great thing. They already had this great idea, and it already added to it. The one thing I also want everybody to keep in mind when you're watching this show is it's like if you stuck your hand in a bag of rice. Every grain is a different story. So in this one, T'Challa was a hero. Maybe there's a version where he gets abducted and he's not a hero and he's worse than Star-Lord. Like, you got to realize it's an infinite number of stories. This is just the ones that they're choosing to tell. Whether they're going to be in the same universe or different universes, I think Marvel's going to play it as they need, depending on where they need to pull a character from.
It's just a lot of fun too.
It is. It's fun. That's how you have to watch it. If you just watch it as it's a good time, you can't be disappointed. Don't worry about how it's going to fit too much into the bigger picture yet, because it might not.
It might not. Sebastian brings up a good point. So far, the universe in What If has been better with the changes. I'm sorry. I'm excited to see if any of the changes makes things worse. Will they explore something like that?
That's a great idea.
I mean, I think they kind of did a little bit.
I think they allude to that in both episodes. To be honest and fair, Sebastian, is that almost both episodes end with kind of a worst case scenario. In Peter Quill, again, we're going to get to Dairy Queen, but I think it kind of sets up that all is not okay in this version of the universe as currently constructed. You may argue it may be worse for wear.
So we open up the very beginning of the scene, and we've heard it before.
Star-Lord.
Who? We don't get a who this time. Korath loves T'Challa. And Robert, I am all here for Korath throughout the entire episode.
Yeah, I mean, like, the legend spread. Also, like, I mean, he basically changed the Ravagers into like a altruistic, group. So of course, everybody's gonna love the legend of T'Challa Star-Lord. So,
and he lays the legend down real quick when he says, "No treasure is worth as much as the good that can be done with it." T'Challa is very altruistic, and I mean, he's Robin Hood. He's Robin Leach. He's Robin Hood.
Robin Leach. That was a great line, by the way, everybody. If you're too young to catch it.
I mean, I caught it.
I understood that reference.
But Rob, what did you think of Korath? Just this entire opening scene of getting his butt kicked in classic Star-Lord, even when he gets knocked out.
It's one of those moments where it was an honor for Star-Lord to kick the crap out of him. That's what I thought was great about it. Like it was wonderful. It was a wonderful. It like almost like an Old West type of feel in that type of fight. But like the legend spread. He was a good outlaw, but this guy had to do his job. But he also gave him the option. He was like, "I'll come work for you," which he eventually did. But
they've hired worse. So.
That was great. It was great. It was, like I said, fun. Fun is going to be the main word to say about this whole episode.
Mark, one of the things that stuck out to me is he leaves and he's got Korath over his shoulder saying he's hired worse. And a Ravager never flies solo. Quill was there alone, save for the girl in the ship that he'd forgot about, Barit. But, I mean, Yondu was there to save him.
Yeah.
That's a big difference.
Yeah, I mean that was a lot of fun. I think right away. Whereas I agree with you. You said the first episode was somewhat formulaic, and they stayed very predictably in the same sandbox. This started to deviate almost immediately from what we knew from the original Star-Lord story. I do want to just applaud Jaimon Hansu. Really love him as an actor. Immense talent. Loved him in Gladiator, love him in Amistad. It was nice to see him flex his comedic chops as a voice actor here. He's generally known for those more dramatic roles and dare we say the Oscar-nominated performances. So it was nice to see him in a lighter role here. Even when he plays the role initially, he is very serious and very laconic and very like tense. So it was nice to see him be relaxed and somewhat jocular, should we say.
Later in the episode when Nebula comes in, he's like, how could you do that to my best friend Star-Lord? I loved it so much. Well, they show us where the what if universe kind of started. They went back. T'Challa wants to explore the world. He's having conversations with T'Chaka, much similar, Robert, we would assume, to the conversations that he had as a kid as well. T'Chaka doesn't want to share Wakanda's resources. The world is in war, and it's convincing enough that Yondu can tell T'Challa that that's how Wakanda was destroyed. But Robert, you would assume at least the start of this, the conversation between T'Challa and T'Chaka, very similar, but then he gets picked up by Yondu because the cosmic readings were off the charts in that area. I thought that was a great way to bring it in. But what did you make of just young Star-Lord, the conversations he was having with his dad?
I like the like youthful innocence before. This is before he like took up the mantle or started getting the pressure of being the next in line to be king. So he didn't have the weight of the people and the country on his shoulders to try to protect them. So it's more about getting out there and seeing the world, and they're telling them like everything out there is bad, and I don't know. I mean, it was cool to see him in that light. So of course it was easy for him to like just bail and take off with Yondu, more like unlike what they just took Peter, after what happened to his mom. So I mean, yeah, that's pretty much it.
But it gave us a glimpse into the real story of the Black Panther that we hadn't seen yet. I think of just those conversations of T'Challa. I mean, that scene in Black Panther when he's on the astral plane and he's talking to not only T'Chaka but everybody around. He says, "All of you were wrong." He's had those feelings throughout his life, and we got even a glimpse at those feelings of even an 11-year-old, 10-year-old T'Challa feeling the exact same way. And I really, really enjoyed that. Kraglin and Taserface, they pick him up because there's alien activity happening in Wakanda. That's just why they assumed they had the right kid. He's got 2 ear holes, 2 hear holes, 2 see holes, and 1 eat hole. Yeah. But I mean, I think it was so easy and so brilliant all at the same time. And if you notice, the Watcher Uatu is in the sky a lot in this episode, a lot more than I noticed him in season 1. But Rob, I'm going to throw this to you. We learned that the Ravagers and T'Challa's altruistic nature, they've become Robin Leach Hood and his merry men.
Yes. It's amazing to show the difference somebody of of influence can have. And I think that, I mean, that's really the main point to take from it. I mean, and I'm sure you can carry that in life. You take people out of certain bad situations, they can make other things of themselves and influence others to do good. So to see him take all these villains basically and kind of turn them into heroes in this reality. And again, not something we should expect long term, but it was fun, and it was fun to see the lighthearted side of the villains when they're playing that the merry men roles, which I like. You said merry men. It's good.
Mark, I'm going to bring up one of those particular villains in artwork form. This was one of the best parts of the entire episode when they introduced the Mad Titan Thanos, and he says, T'Challa showed me there was more than one way to reallocate the universe's resources. This was my favorite part of the episode. Am I alone on this one, Mark?
No, it was a jaw-dropping moment when you saw Thanos come out, and almost a reformed Thanos. What I really enjoyed about Thanos was, yes, he was on board, but you could still see he still had those feelings and that thought process.
It's efficient.
Yeah, that you can see him almost still continuing, despite the fact that he hasn't gone through and tried to execute his plan. You can still see him trying to defend it and almost approach it from now like, well, let's debate this. Like, the theory is sound, guys. And, they poke fun at it and, say it sounds a lot like genocide. And so it was a more lighthearted approach, but it was also, Thanos is still Thanos. He just has come around and been changed, sort of.
Yeah, call me Captain Genocide one more time and find out. Robert, I want to give you a chance to talk about Thanos as well, and Rob will give you a chance to talk about Thanos too, because it was just too dang good.
Yeah, I agree with you. That was the best part of the episode for me. I mean, I guess it's just like we talked about the nature of T'Challa to bring people together. I mean, I don't know if Peter never had a chance to do that in the other one, but I mean, yeah, like you said, he still got that, he still got that thought in the back of his head to wipe out half the universe. But I guess T'Challa just brought. I mean, maybe they told him about the ember. What is that called? The embers of creation.
Seeds of Ember.
The embers of creation. I think that's what it's called. It's like maybe they pitched that to him in the beginning, like, hey, this is the best way to do it. And I mean, that's when he got on board. It's like there's other ways to double the resources, not just like take out half existence because there's not enough.
So Robert, can I just want to pose this to you, and if anybody else wants to jump in too.
Embers of Genesis.
Embers of Genesis, there you go.
Does this change anything for you in terms of the narrative, the 616 narrative that we were introduced to? Because the way that Josh Brolin played the character, I think what we liked about Thanos was he had so much depth. He laments the fact that he has to kill Gamora. It seems like he is a zealot, and he is pure in his belief that this is the only way that he can do it. But he's also like, he's not emotionless. No. Does this change anything for you, seeing him in this light? Does this add any depth to him in what we've already seen?
I think that's what I like about Infinity War more than Endgame, is Thanos is a far more compelling character. The whole point of pulling 2014 Thanos out of the Guardians universe and Guardians 1 Thanos is he hasn't softened even a little bit. Those 4 years really made a huge difference in his life, especially in regards to the sacrifices he had to make of killing Gamora and just everything that he had to go through to get those stones. When in Avengers Endgame, the stones are just being literally hand delivered to him. So I think that's, if I were to put, I mean, Avengers Endgame and I mean, one's a 10 and one's a 10.1 for me. Like I prefer Infinity War simply as a movie going experience because of those exact reasons. Now, something that I thought, and kind of piggybacking off what you said, Mark and Robert, I'd love to get you, and Mark, I'd love to get your thoughts on this as well. Are you okay with them taking the entire Infinity Saga and kind of turning it into a joke? This is the second time they've done it. They did it with the Infinity Stones as the paperweights in Loki, and they're doing it again. Rob, go ahead.
This is how you have to grow the brand. I love Thanos as the philosopher. I think that's great too. Thanos is one of possibly my favorite villain of all times because his motive was good. The thing they did in this, which is why I don't mind them making fun of it, because this is meant to be made fun But it's meant to be made fun of on purpose because they magically have a solution that they can double, triple, quadruple the resources, so you don't have to kill all these people. Now, if he would have been presented that solution, I think he still would have took it. He wasn't. He was a bad guy because he thought this is what he had to do to save the universe, and in many ways, it makes sense. But he doesn't have to do that in this reality. So I don't mind that they made fun of it, but I also think they want to belittle it, so whatever is coming next seems that much greater and bigger.
Okay, by you, Robert?
I think it's just a matter of circumstance, like the timing and everything. Like all this stuff is happening, like I said, 6 years before we even see Guardians. So, like, I think T'Challa had a lot more time to intervene with a lot of stuff that happened in, on the galactic side. So that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I simply put it out there. I'm fine with it as well. Like, I think it's really funny. I mean, Okoye saying like that sounds an awful lot like genocide. No, it's not genocide because it's random.
It's random. It's random.
And Nebula just completely embarrassed by her dad. Like it was just so good. But man, like we'll talk more about Thanos here in a little bit. But T'Challa, or shall I say Cha-Cha, is approached by a blue beauty with blonde hair and Nebula, and she simply says to him, and she points out the obvious that we're supposed to have already picked up on, but you lost your home. He believes Wakanda has been destroyed. Yondu told him as much, that he tried to take him back, but it's been destroyed. And Nebula says, you lost your home, so now you save everyone else's. He's altruistic, and Mark, I'll throw this to you. This is the kind of stuff that you're talking about that makes me miss the real Chadwick person.
Yeah, it was a good. There was so much great stuff in this episode that even though there were funny moments, there were moments like this, and this is what reminded us how much we miss and love, and what we loved about that character. Black Panther, again, I mean, guys, we've talked about this how many times, that Black Panther it's a great movie, but I think what makes the movie so much greater is Chadwick's performance in that role. And like, again, I had to just take pause several times in this and just remind myself of what a great human being he is. I mean, like I've said this before again and again. I'm sorry if I'm getting really heavy, but like he was fighting that battle quietly on his own in the middle of all of these projects. Like, here's a guy recording a voice spot for this show. He was at the end of his life, knowingly at the end of his life. And it's just thinking about that strength that he had to show to do that, and to get up every day and to toe the line and go to work, realizing that his days were very finite at that point, is just, again, it just blows my mind, man. It just blows my mind.
If something like that is happening, though, what a way to leave a legacy. And I'm sure those are the things that are going through his mind to do this. But what a way to go out. That quote on the bottom says it. He lost his home and now he's going to save everybody else's. Not to get off this point, but also in this scene, we see a very happy Drax, which I don't want to just shift it, but I don't want to move on from this scene without talking about that, because Drax's family wasn't killed by Thanos in this. So you saw a very happy, lighthearted Drax at this point as well.
You know what I like, Rob, really quick before I lose the thought?
Go ahead.
Is the idea of this series, and this episode in particular, that the life of one man in particular can have such a strong ripple effect on the galaxy or the universe, was such a resounding message. And again, I think more of a testament to Chadwick more than anything else. That the whole premise of this episode was, if you've ever thought that one man can't make a difference, or that one man's actions can't reverberate throughout the world or the galaxy, you're incorrect. And it just takes one outlook or one positive thought to make a change. And that was the overarching theme of, I think, that the ultimate villain can then become an ally and a friend if you approach the situation the right way. That you can save the world, you can save a person. And it was just like, and Mike Ruby said this too. He was like, the first episode was good. This episode was great. And this is what I had hoped that this show was going to be. If they don't make another What If, I'm satisfied with this episode alone.
Robert, I know you echo a lot of the sentiments that they have. You were actually slated to record a Black Panther commentary track the night Chadwick Boseman passed, or the next morning that Chadwick Boseman passed away. You ended up doing a 2-hour podcast just reflecting on his life and what that movie meant to you. I was going to ask you to expand on this a little bit when we got to the end of the entire episode being dedicated to him. But Robert, if you wouldn't mind just sharing just your thoughts on this conversation that we're having.
I mean, yeah, you guys are spot on, man. Like the whole time, like we don't know how long. I can't remember how long ago he was diagnosed while he was making all these movies or doing all these Marvel projects. But like he knew it was bigger than him. Like he had to go out there and represent for a whole bunch of people, a whole bunch of kids. So it wasn't just about him. And yeah, it's nice to think that you're going to leave a legacy, but I don't think that was his whole thought process, was like leaving his own legacy, but not disappointing the kids. Like, you got to show out. This is the first opportunity we're going to get for a big budget, blockbuster with Black people in it. So he had to go out there and put in the work, and that's what he did every day. Like, even with all this stuff going on, you can't turn back now. So that was him.
Yep. And I mean, and this is where you cannot, under any circumstance, be critical of Marvel and their decision to recast or not recast the role of T'Challa. Ultimately, he's bigger than that role. He always will be. He's not just T'Challa. He's Chadwick Boseman. He is far more important to our real lives than he even is in a fictional manner. But he's going to find the way into the lives of a lot of people because of T'Challa. So even though I personally believe, I wish they had recast the role of T'Challa, I understand why they didn't, but it's not fair to be critical of it one way or another. But what he stood for, he knew. I just hope I know Ryan Coogler and I know Kevin Feige knew about this before he passed away. I really hope that he was able to know how much he meant to people before he passed on, because just a few months before he passed on, he did a live spot on Jackie Robinson Day, and he was looking really skinny, and everybody was more making fun of him than being concerned about him. And that's, I hate things when those kinds of things happen. And I think Chadwick paid enough attention. Everybody thought he was just too cool for everything when he was doing the judging at the NBA dunk competition, just too cool for the Wakanda Forever or whatever, when it was taking everything in his energy to get out there. And this episode reminded me again of how much we just need to tell people how much they mean to us when they're alive. Like, we have to. And not to get preachy, not whatever. I just hope that Chadwick, and I mean, this is who his character was in What If, that just, he built a better world than it would have been. And this episode portrayed that beautifully.
Bryan, not to turn this to, we had a little bit of a sidebar on this, that there were so many people that perceived this episode to be specifically dunking on Star-Lord. I didn't see it as dunking on Star-Lord.
It's not fair.
It's not fair. I did not see that, in as much as the way that I interpreted this episode, quite honestly, followed by the postscript and the dedication of the episode itself. This episode was intended to show that the right man who understood the gravity of the moment that he was thrust in, the right mindset, the right thought process, someone who was thoughtful and mindful and present of the opportunity in the moment, can make all of the difference in the world. And again, this wasn't dunking on Chris Pratt and Star-Lord as we know him, in as much as it was heaping praise and adulation onto the kind of man that Chadwick Boseman was. And they injected a lot of Chadwick Boseman's ethic and his beliefs and what he stood for into this episode, more so than, because remember, like, Black Panther is out of Wakanda. He's raised far from Wakanda. He's raised and reared by the Ravagers. but the right man in the right situation can make a world or a galaxy a difference. This was not dunking on Chris Pratt as much as it was just showing you that having the right kind of thought and being the right man who understands the gravity of the moment can really make a difference in the world. So,
yeah, it was not Peter Quill's a doofus. It's
no,
T'Challa is this good.
yeah, that's what it was. It was really just, it was paying a tribute to a man. We don't have, and the thing is he's gone, so we don't have much of an opportunity to do that anymore. This was a real live opportunity to do that and to do it the right way and to say goodbye to T'Challa the right way. And I feel like we did with this episode.
Reports are we're going to get him in 3 more episodes as well when we talk about the interconnectivity, and we'll talk more about that with Killmonger, with Ego, and everything later on. But Rob, did you have anything else before we move on?
No. Let's
Robert,
keep going.
No, that was good, man.
Perfect. One of my biggest geek out moments of the episode was Thanos talking about how he knows who the Black Order is. The Black Order are Tavon's security. I thought that was incredible. They're going into Tavon's collection, and Yondu says, "Oh, it looks like you got one of the exhibits being the security detail here." But Robert, what did you think of the Black Order and them tying into this universe this way?
I think it makes sense. It's like, you got your soldiers that have nothing to do when there's nothing to fight. So, Black Order, Black Water type stuff. That's what I thought about it. It was cool to see them. I like how they looked in there. I like the aesthetic and the animations for them. So it was cool.
Thanos saying, "Take it from me, I know how bad they can be." I thought that was a lot of fun. Rob, what did you make of the Black Order?
Same thing. I loved it. It's funny to see how the Ravagers under T'Challa became good, but the Black Order still were like lackeys wanted to be lackeys, so they jumped to the next person in charge. And this, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm thinking of other animated shows, comics. This is the most powerful version of the Collector I've ever seen in any Marvel.
Yeah, he got a shake weight. He collected a shake weight.
Yeah, right. But it's just funny because without other people in the Collector's way, look at how powerful he became in this, which is very, very interesting.
Yes. Well, Mark, I'm gonna toss the next one to you. T'Challa's making his way through, and he comes across quite the articulate for a duck.
Did you kick this to me as a child of the '80s? Because
100%.
I'm feeling targeted right now.
My bad.
No, it's all good. Listen, man, it's all good. I am a gigantic fan of. I'm like one of the only people that is a fan of the original Howard the Duck, the live action Howard the Duck.
You're alone on
Wow. Yeah.
Robert, I was one of those guys that as a child, my grandmother had free HBO because there was like something wrong with the blocker.
Right.
So like our VHS was our recorder was working overtime.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a VHS copy from HBO. Man, I played Howard the Duck out until that tape broke. I loved it so much.
Yeah, my sisters played the hell out of that movie. I couldn't stand it.
Not even as the resident Marvel guy, huh?
Well,
Yeah.
The thing I liked most about it too. So I was also a Ferris Bueller guy, but I also dug that Mr. Rooney was in it as the villain.
Oh yeah, right.
That's funny.
That's right. He turned into like a big ass bug or something, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
What you're telling me is you'd watch Howard the Duck 9 times?
9 times.
Oh God.
I saw more than you have. And
It was a
every
lot.
time.
But getting Seth Green to be the voice and just he breaks him out, give me the tour, and then he stops at the bar. Hey, where you going, man? Happy hour just started. Like,
Bryan,
Do you think we're getting a Howard the Duck? Can I just say this? Because like we've seen him now 3 or 4 times. Are we getting something with Howard the Duck soon?
we've seen Cosmo the dog just as many times. So.
I think Howard the Duck is kind of like the comic relief. And I also, correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like Seth Green has been voicing him in Marvel cartoons for like a decade now.
You're correct. Yep.
Yeah, so that's not a new thing. So I always get excited when I see Howard the Duck because I'm also getting Seth Green. So it's wonderful every time.
I would just like to point out that in the comments, Frankie Rosa Jr. and I are simpatico on Howard the Duck. Thank you, Frankie.
That doesn't surprise me. That doesn't surprise me at all. I love Frankie. That does not surprise me at all.
Cheers.
Rob, we're gonna start with you. He's walking through. We got it pointed out to him that he still had his necklace from before. It starts glowing. It starts doing something he's never seen it do before because he's walking right past the Wakandan Royal Talon fighter.
Everything about this.
Oh, man,
no.
we dropped it. We'll get him back here in just a minute. I'm assuming, and Robert, we're going to go to you on this. I'm assuming, as Rob is our resident music guy, he was going with the score that played right behind it. And Rob is back. So, Rob, I'm assuming you were going to go with the music that played right behind it.
No, what music was behind it?
You didn't hear it? We got the full Black Panther score.
Oh, you know what's funny? I was so amazed, first of all, by the collection. I loved passing the Nova Corps ship. We also had the Grandmaster's Party ship. I was loving the collection. Then we get to it like it reminded me Independence Day style, when all of a sudden things get in the atmosphere and now blinky lights start going on the ship. All of a sudden, it's like that, and then to have everything activate, and then this emotional sequence from his, we'll call it biological parents, because I feel like Yondu still took on that father role in this universe.
And they kind of go over the head with that a little bit.
It was
Flight of the Navigator vibes.
Flight of the Navigator, baby. We're going all
80s, straight 80s
on Disney Plus. They should give us royalties, unlike ScarJo. What?
So I never saw the collector's ship or the Grandmaster ship. It makes sense. They're brothers.
It's the party ship, the one they end up at the end of Ragnarok.
Birthday.
The orgy ship. Yep.
Yes.
But there is also a X-wing, Rogue Squadron X-wing from Star Wars in that hangar bay as well, behind the Nova Corps ship. But Robert, we were talking about the music, the Black Panther, just everything. We have the Dora Milaje stand-ins, for lack of a better term, sitting inside the ship to show off the costumes. And this is when T'Challa learns that Wakanda's still out there. T'Chaka's still looking for him.
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy to see. I didn't realize that they had that kind of technology in the Talon to go into space. I mean, maybe they developed it since he went missing, but it figures if anybody could do it, it'd be the Wakandans.
They would develop it to be looking for him. I honestly just took it as the collector. I mean, he's got lots of stuff in his collection that he took it from them. But I guess I never really thought about it that way.
Yeah, I mean, they leave nowhere, and that's in a vacuum, so it's space capable.
So it sounds like CinemaCon just threatened everyone at the Sony panel per Twitter not to post anything online claiming night vision security and patrolling. I don't think it's a claim. I think it's real. I've been to Star Wars Celebration where they were showing stuff about The Mandalorian. Man, I just really hope that they're not going to show it only to CinemaCon. I hope we're getting something tonight, but it doesn't sound like it's going to drop while we're on. So that's a small victory. We might have to do an emergency Earth's Mightiest Weirdos later in the week if this trailer drops. But Mark, what did you make of the Talon fighter?
Again, I got Flight of the Navigator vibes when he just wandered onto the ship. Again, my age is showing there. It's really fun. I didn't realize that Wakanda had that same technology to fly those into space, but now that you say with him being abducted from space, that it would make a whole heck of a lot of sense that they would go out into the universe to try to find him and stop at nothing to find the Crown Prince of Wakanda. It's these shows. Loki did this really well. I love the Easter eggs. I love the stuff coming from films that we know. That's what makes these half the fun, is that we're seeing things that we have a familiarity with in a completely different light and in a completely different setting, and it makes it really fun. You just geek out. That's what I loved about the first episode of The Bad Batch. We got stuff from Rebels, we got stuff from Clone Wars, and it was just like in a Star Wars stew. It's the same thing. This is like a really well-cooked Marvel stew.
All right.
I'm going to pull this back up because it makes me laugh. CinemaCon just threatened everyone per Twitter not to post anything online. He found it on Twitter not to post anything online. That makes me laugh. So we move on. And Robert, I'm going to toss this to you. Again, they show us just what T'Challa's, just his altruistic nature. We've said it many times. He said, where I come from, history has never looked kindly on those who lock men in cages.
Yeah, I mean, like you guys have been saying, this whole episode is like, one man can change a bunch of stuff, even in the universe. Like, you guys noticed that the ship is not the Milano. His perspective is more, the ship's called the Mandela instead of Milano. So there you go. Like,
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, that was pretty cool, and that's not something they really told you about. Dwayne says, so with this space, were they hunting the Crown Prince, or did it exist in the sacred timeline, just never discussed? I would assume that they've never been to space, or else it would have it would have come up.
No, I think that you're supposed to take liberties here with your mind. And again, it can go in so many different directions, but I think it makes perfect sense. They're going to put all those resources that they did for everything else with vibranium into finding his son. That's exactly what he's going to do. And we shouldn't skate past that point. It was named the Mandela. You know, right. Star-Lord, the original Star-Lord, Peter Quill, named his after Alyssa Milano. Yeah. That's why it was called the Milano, after Alyssa Milano, which, don't get me wrong, we all have who's the boss? But, I mean, it is what it is. That's the difference in the character. That's what's beautiful about it.
Thanks, Abed.
You watch Community? I'm sorry, guys. I'm gonna take us there for 15 seconds. Do you watch Community?
Yes.
It's Angela.
It's Angela. After years.
Abed proved it.
All right. Well, we're gonna start with you, Rob. I'm gonna pull up this picture. And Tavon, not only did he take the arm off a terribly chatty Cronin, he killed Korg. Yep. And this is where if any universe where Korg no longer exists is not the greatest universe anymore. He's also got Captain America's shield. He's got Hela's head thing, headdress, whatever we want to call that. He's got Mjolnir. He's got everything. I don't know how he hangs Mjolnir up. How do you
Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Korg. I'm kind of like the leader in here.
Can I say something about that one?
Go ahead.
It's 2008. There's no enchantment yet. Oh. Like the enchantment happened after 2008.
So the enchantment happened in 2011.
Correct. So anybody could lift it at that point.
Fascinating. I never thought about it.
That is deep.
The elevator's not worthy.
But yeah, I mean, it's the point of this is to, I also felt too, I'm thinking of the Thanos line, I'm inevitable. A villain is always inevitable. Somebody is going to rise to power. So because Thanos stepped aside here, we get this Jack, probably too steroided up to play in the major leagues version of the Collector here. He's just humongous.
Balco
he has trophies from some of our favorite heroes and villains. Like, this guy defeated everybody. Part of me would love to see a little more into this future and the battle that it might not be interesting at all. It might just be the Collector wins. I mean, who knows? But wow, to see all those trophies right there, it's to show you just how powerful he became in this universe.
So would you say that he's hella strong?
There you go.
I'll be here all day. So
Again, I caught terribly chatty Cronin immediately, and I got very upset. We'll talk about that here in a little bit, what you were talking about, Rob, because let's just talk about it now. Do we think that the Collector makes it out of his current situation alive?
Ooh.
I don't think they want you to think that. I don't think.
No. They, in this narrative, they don't want you to think that. They want you to think that this is a better universe because T'Challa's in it. But like I said, it's like sticking your hand in a bag of rice and pulling out one grain, one twist or turn. In our version of Infinity War, there was over 16 million possibilities that Doctor Strange. That was just on that one timeline, branching out from that moment.
16 million would be crazy. It was 14,605,000.
Excuse me. Sorry. It's been a while since I mentioned the number. But if every single reality from every point forward has 14 million, this is why we talk about infinite possibilities. So yeah, and I think they want you to think that. But again, we're just pulling random stories at a time. There's no stakes in these stories. That's why we can just sit back and enjoy them, and they're fun.
Mark, something we haven't talked about a lot throughout this review has been Nebula and how much fun Nebula was in that episode. You gave me a look. Go ahead.
Can I just say, Nebula is always fun. Karen Gillan is always fun. Like, whether she's a knockout blonde or a cybernetic psycho, she's really fun.
Hey, Cha-Cha.
I enjoy her. I enjoyed her in this episode. I liked the double cross, but the planned double cross. It was a lot of fun because you're like, oh, that's so Nebula. And then you realize that
she flips it.
She flips it.
She flips it. She flips it and then reflips it.
How could you do this to my best friend, T'Challa?
She also moved Smurfette to my second favorite blonde hair, blue skin cartoon.
Oh, I didn't even catch that. Yeah.
Nice.
I don't think there was a sassy Smurf. So we get Nebula, and actually she kind of still loves her dad. a little bit, and she's trying to protect him. And Robert, we get, again, one of the coolest parts of the episode. Are you crazy? And we get Thanos saying, I'm not crazy. I'm mad. I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, this is a pretty good scene, man. But it's kind of shocking to see like how it was kind of hard for him to defeat him, especially when Proxima Midnight shows up. So why'd they follow him in the first place in the sacred timeline if they could like gang up like he's not as menacing when you see that when you see how two of them, because remember the other two got shot in the back pretty much. Yeah. So you got two people from the Black Order able to almost take him out.
I loved seeing them again too. Like that was another. Yeah. I forgot that until you just mentioned Proxima Midnight. Seeing the Black Order, that was really fun. That was really fun seeing them all united again, seeing them almost fall into the similar role of there's a power vacuum. They're going to follow whoever the big bad is, and so they become, they become true to form. They become mercenaries, and they go with the flow.
Dwayne says he feels like the writing in this episode was very clever. Honestly, it's one of the best of the Disney Plus series. I don't know if I disagree with that.
He's not lying.
What I don't know is how do they top it? And I mean, this week we know we're getting Fury's big week. It's dealing with when he meets Natasha Romanoff and meets Tony Stark, kind of Iron Man 2 time frame. Are they interconnected storylines? We don't know. If I were betting, I think we will get Killmonger this week if we're dealing with Tony Stark and kind of who he becomes. I think we might get Killmonger. It does look like at the end that Shuri is not the Black Panther, so somebody has to be. But when they beat the Collector, they get out and they leave in the Talon fighter, and he says there ain't no place in this galaxy where you don't belong. Yondu apologizes, and T'Challa says, no, I understand like what you were doing and everything. They do a lot of the Yondu and Rocket and Yondu and Quill stuff. If you're just like me, all those kinds of things we get. I think Yondu was really good in this episode. I love how much they talked about how his teeth are fixed because they're the good guys and they had money to fix his teeth. I thought that was a lot of fun. We talked about this again, but I want to give you guys a chance to talk about it. Okoye just looks Thanos in the eye and says, my friend, that sounds an awful lot like genocide. But I thought that was a lot of fun. But we'll finish up talking about the man dancing in the Dairy Queen. Not just any Dairy Queen, but the same Dairy Queen that we got in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Rob, what did you make of this entire ending sequence?
They connected the whole thing. That's why it's beautiful. To come back to Peter Quill in a Dairy Queen, that's where he ends up working in a Dairy Queen, and Ego finds him. And again, who knows where we go from that point? I don't know if they're going to explore that in a later episode or it's just meant for fun at the end. But they dropped Easter eggs all over the place, just for us to do this, to talk about it. And again, will it be interconnected? Will it not? That's really the question. Other than that, it was enjoyable. They just threw another connection in there just for fun.
It's amazing to me that they could cast the voice talent of Josh Brolin and Kurt Russell and not have it get out, and to know that their characters were involved. I thought that was a lot of fun. Robert, what did you make of this Dairy Queen scene where the end of the world potentially begins?
Well, it was potentially the end of the world in Guardians 2, but this one is potentially the end of the universe. Right? So that's pretty cool.
Has to pull him back.
Yeah, nobody can save him, or nobody can, give him that pause when he's, getting influenced by Ego in the first place. There's no Guardians there to help him. So this, like Rob was saying, this is pretty deep, man. This is pretty deep stuff.
Yeah. Dwayne says, how long until there are it's random, it's not genocide shirts appear? You've got at least one customer.
That's a dangerous world. Be careful where you wear that.
I'd be careful with that shirt.
That might be true.
Oh, man.
Anyway,
the only thing I will say, gentlemen, that we were missing from this episode is I would have liked a little trash panda maybe behind the Dairy Queen, just as like a little Easter egg or a reference, just to say like maybe that was Rocket ungenetically altered something. There was no Rocket
except me.
Nothing.
Well, we talked about this a little bit ago, but again, they dedicated the episode to our friend, our inspiration, and our hero, Chadwick Boseman. No better way to end the episode, in my opinion. We should get him in at least 3 more episodes, which is what makes me believe that it's interconnected. And I'd love to get your guys' thoughts on just how they dedicated the episode, and if you also believe that it's going to be an interconnected storyline. Robert, we'll start with you.
I think it is. I'm seeing on the chat Alex Klein's talking about we don't see Gamora. That's going to be interesting moving forward, because I think, like, you know, Thanos is still on his crusade before he met T'Challa, so you still got to reckon with her. Like, we see her in the one of the episodes wearing his armor and got the dual blade. So yeah, I mean,
she's coming.
Yeah, she's coming. So yeah,
she's up.
It's interesting to see like where everything spins from this one episode. Like, I don't know if it ties into Captain Carter, but yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, Captain Carter coming out in 2012 to Hawkeye and in Avengers compound there, and it's not Loki. So what's the threat? It'd be interesting, because Gamora very well could be the threat. Mark, do you expect an interconnected story at the end of all this?
I certainly hope so. Again, it's just a lot of fun. I think it would be a tremendous miss if they didn't connect these into some alternate universe and have all of these narratives come together to show that, that despite the randomness or the seemingly randomness of this, that it can all still have an interconnectedness, and it would be really fun. It would be a lot of fun.
Dwayne says, but seeing Captain America's shield in the Collector's Collection, doesn't that immediately cause a conflict with episode 1? There's multiple various timelines. So even if they are interconnected, it doesn't mean they're interconnected because they're all in the same timeline. That wouldn't be near as interesting instead of setting up just another sacred timeline. Go ahead, Rob.
It also doesn't mean they have to be interconnected with each other, and they could still be interconnected to our main timeline that we're used to. Now, I'm not saying that they're going to do this, but what they have the ability to do if they choose, we can see a better version of Killmonger, for example, in this series. And that it's very easy for them to pull that version of Killmonger into a movie, and it's very realistic. While now we have Michael B. Jordan back in a movie. We fixed the, I don't want to call it an issue, but the fact that Chadwick did pass. And they can pull him, and he's a better version of his villain self. He could be a good guy, and they can use him. They can do that with any character. And like I said, I'm not saying that's what they're setting up, but the fact that they have the ability to do that is genius.
You're right. The creation of a multiverse gives Kevin Feige and the MCU creatives a lot of leeway to recast, to reset. It's genius, because it solves the inevitable problem of Hollywood. Actors get older, contracts get fatter, they move on to other projects, they lose interest with staying with the franchise. Having this, so I mean, it sort of fixes the Batman problem, if you will. That we go from Michael Keaton to Val Kilmer to George Clooney. It's like, it's a different dude. It's a different dude, and it's set in the same timeline, but I know it's not the same guy. This now creates the solution to that is, Michael Keaton didn't want to come back for a third film, and now we have another version. It's still Batman, but it's another version of it. And DC is kind of tapping into this too with their version of a multiverse, that they're also realizing they're having the same kind of issue with Hollywood. And these comic book movies don't want to stop. They don't want to lose momentum. They realize that they are like printing money. So how can we continue to print money, onboard new fans, and retain old fans at the same time? Well, what's the best way to retain old fans? You tap into the comics. You tap into things that we're in our 40s and 30s, have been reading since we were kids. And then it's believable for us because it has basis in what we've been reading. For them, it's a win-win. So it makes the diehard fans happy that we're tapping into the multiverse. We're bringing out these different narratives and storylines that we've been reading about for decades. Simultaneously, for kids, you continue the story. Like, we'll get another Iron Man. We'll get another Captain America. We're going to get another Hawkeye. We're going to get Young Avengers and West Coast Avengers. And we continue to print money.
It reminded me of a piece of news we missed this week. Dominique Thorne is appearing as Riri Williams in Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. That is our next Iron Man.
Ooh, I did not know that casting was done. That's awesome. I knew it was going to happen. I didn't know who it was going to be. This is awesome. Awesome.
I interrupted you. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine.
No, you're fine. No, I was just saying, like, to your point, like, there's no reason for a hard or even a soft reboot. Like, you can just keep everything going as one continuous story, one continuous saga. Yep. So that's the cool thing about this whole multiverse thing. And, maybe you'll see another Terrence Howard War Machine somewhere.
Yeah. Well, here's the other beautiful thing.
You could.
Theoretically.
Yeah. Here's the other beautiful thing. Should Tony Stark should Robert Downey Jr. decide at some point, hey, these art house films are not, like, I want to come back, you now have that opportunity to bring him back, which is the other great thing about, like, what's going on with Spider-Man right now is it's going to be fun to see Tobey Maguire again. It's going to be fun to see Andrew Garfield. You may not be a fan of that, but you'll still geek out a little bit.
Hypothetically.
Yeah. Is it going to be fun? Is it really?
I mean, Brian, we talked about this before. Like, if his movies do start to suck, maybe he can come back and be the AI for Riri Williams just for a little while, maybe.
Oh man, give me Tony Stark as the. I mean, give me that before you give me Doolittle 2.
Yeah,
gentlemen, I'd love to end this on a bit of a game show note. Okay. I would just love to finish it up. We're going to go Family Feud style, but let me get my introductory background music. If you could use Pym particles to make an animal shrink, which would you choose? Rob.
A shark.
Ooh, nice. That was number 5.
Lion. The answer is always lion.
Ooh. Robert.
Elephant.
That is number 1. Rob.
Giraffe.
Mark.
Dinosaur. T-Rex.
I like that answer, but no.
Small.
Robert.
Hippo.
You guys didn't do it. Elephant number 1. Whale number 2. Lion.
Whale. That was my next. Whale was my next.
Okay. Horse number 4. Bear number 5. Shark number 6. Skunk number 7. I don't know why. Spiders number 8. Also, I don't know why.
Ryan, lion. The answer is always lion. Lion or panda? The answer is always lion.
Gentlemen.
Black and white and red. A panda who has a lion.
What is going on in this Diz Life land?
This week on This Diz Life, Dwayne and I are going to do a trip report where we talk about my 11 days in sunny Florida. Lots of tips, lots of tricks, and new food items. Good stuff.
Rob, what is going on in piano land?
I'm playing piano. Check out the Facebook page, facebook.com/piano Rob with 2 B's. My schedule's there. It's mostly Boathouse and Tin Roof in Orlando for the shows you can go to.
Robert, I would like to plug this last piece of art that was featured on the Comic-Con at Home website. It is my computer background. She is gorgeous. Ahsoka freaking Tano, I believe, is the exact title that you sent me with this particular one. Rob, anything else you want to plug?
No, man. That's it. I'm good. Have fun with you guys.
Well, thank you so much for joining us for Earth's Mightiest Weirdos for all time.
Always.